All right, folks, how to sell your pre-construction on assignment. That is the topic for the day. Now, this video is going to be a little bit on the longer side, but I encourage you guys to watch until the end. Some of the topics I'm going to be covering is just a brief introduction on who I am and myself, my team. We'll talk about understanding pre-construction assignments, how exactly it works. We'll talk about the legal and financial considerations. We'll talk about the market timing and conditions as of right now. I'll teach you how to value your pre-construction property. We'll go over the assignment sales process, marketing your assignment, the biggest mistakes to avoid that are very common. We'll also look at a case study of an assignment sale that we've done recently, and finally we'll talk about next steps and conclusion. So this video or webinar is for you if you've purchased a pre-construction property within the last 3 to 4 years. Perhaps you purchased it with the intention to live in it or to invest in it, but you no longer can. Maybe you bought it with the intention to assign it from the get-go and you had no intentions to live or invest in it. Or perhaps you can't close because you've run into financial difficulties, financial constraints. Maybe you've had a change of job and you no longer are able to close on the property. Perhaps you don't find the property suitable for your needs anymore, and maybe you bought a one-bedroom and now you need a two-bedroom, maybe because you've got a family, or you need a townhouse or a fully detached house. Or maybe you just want to take your money out and take the cash elsewhere towards a different opportunity. So if any of these are you, then this video is for you, and you want to make sure you watch till the end so you understand the whole process. By the way, at any time, if you want to book a call throughout this video, I highly encourage you to do that. There's a QR code right here. If you scan this, it'll take you to my calendar page where you can book a date and time that works for you. This QR code will also be on the bottom right-hand corner of this presentation, so at any time you want to do that, go ahead and feel free to do so. All right, so a little bit about myself and the team. We're Team Suru Real Estate. We're a full-service real estate team based right here in the GTA, Greater Toronto area, but we do service all of Canada. We've done pre-construction and assignment deals in Alberta, Quebec, but predominantly we're based out of the GTA. We're recognized as the top 1% team in Canada in terms of sales volume and units. Last year in 2023, we did over $80 million in sales. We consistently sell over 100 homes a year. We've got over 100 reviews on Google. We specialize in everything from leasing, buying, selling, investments, pre-construction, assignments, you name it. Full service real estate brokerage, including rentals as well. Just a quick snapshot of our assignment database. This is actually a bit outdated from a couple of weeks ago, but we've now got well over 2,200 people that are in our database that are strictly looking for assignments. This is not our entire database, but this is just to show you guys what our assignment, specifically buyer database, looks like. These are people that have raised their hands that we've collected over the years who are actively looking for assignment opportunities. And this is one of the ways we leverage listings for people who want to sell their pre-construction on assignment, is to leverage our database. All right, let's talk about understanding assignments. So first of all, what is an assignment? If you're here and you're watching this and you have no idea what assignments are and you want a quick crash course, an assignment is, in a nutshell, is a transfer of your rights and obligations of an agreement of purchase and sale to a third party before completion. So to keep things very simple, you purchase a pre-construction property, let's just say a condo a few years ago. You can no longer close on it. You're now simply assigning your agreement of purchase and sale to a new buyer before closing. Simple. Some benefits of assignments are, A, you can avoid closing costs. You don't have to close on it. Historically, people have made a profit on assignment. They bought something that was at a really good price from the developer. A few years go by, they've accumulated quite a bit of equity through passive appreciation, and they were able to flip it prior to closing and then use, in many cases, their deposits to maybe buy more pre-construction properties to continue doing that thing and just continue to scale their portfolio. Oftentimes, they even use the deposits to invest in another opportunity. Some of the challenges of assignments that we're seeing, especially in a market like this, is, first of all, you can't market the assignment on MLS because developers won't allow you to do that. And they have their reasons of why they don't let you put assignments on the MLS. Assignments are very sensitive to shifts in the market. I mean, we're seeing that right now in 2024. fourth quarter. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of assignments on the market. Pre-construction inventory is high, so assignments are harder to sell at this time. And assignments in general are a longer and more complex sales process. But if you keep things simple and you understand the process, it doesn't have to be complex. So let's talk about some of the legal and financial considerations in an assignment sale. The first thing is, you have to understand the clauses. Okay, when you get an agreement of purchase and sale from the developer, when you're signed it, maybe it's been a few years, you have to make sure that you actually have an assignment clause, because without that assignment clause, you are not going to be able to sell it. So a lot of people, clients aren't always aware whether or not they have an assignment clause, and if you're not sure, you can either talk to us, and I can do a brief review and see if you have an assignment clause, or you can have a lawyer review it as well. And if you do, you have to see whether or not it's free or if there's a fee associated with it. Oftentimes when developers were selling pre-construction a few years ago, one of the most common incentives you would see in those agreements was the ability to assign for free or at a very low cost. The only thing, even if it is free, is there's the builder's lawyer's fee component, because at the end of the day, nothing's free, and the lawyers are going to charge for the transaction, and the builder's not going to absorb that cost, so you just have to pay that lawyer's fee, which is typically around anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. It's not a whole lot, plus HST. You also want to find out if there's any restrictions on assignments. Most common ones is if, let's just say, you have certain incentives that you got from the developer when you purchased the pre-construction property. There's a good chance you're not able to assign those incentives over to the new buyer. But again, it depends on the agreement. Some builders allow you to assign those incentives. Maybe you got some upgrades or cash back on closing. Maybe you got some decor dollars. Maybe you got, a free parking or a locker or what have you. Some things may not be assignable, but again, you want to revert back to the agreement and just confirm things there. Next thing you want to consider is the legal aspect of an assignment sale. Lawyers are heavily involved in an assignment transaction because these agreements are long, especially the ones that you signed with the developer, and lawyers have to be involved to make sure that A, it's assignable, and B, what conditions are there and what do you need to be aware of? What are the implications for both the assignor, which is the seller, and the assignee, which is the new buyer? Okay, so very important for lawyers to be involved in that process. And lastly, you want to consider the financial considerations. How much deposits have you already put in? And if you do assign it, how are those deposits going to be paid out to you? Because everything in an assignment is negotiable, and so it's up to you to decide how you want to structure that. You also want to see how much deposits are still pending. Maybe you've paid only 15% and there's an additional 5% that's pending, that's due on occupancy. Who's paying for that, and how is that being paid out? Are you paying for that? Is the assignee paying for that? Those are the things that you can include in the agreement as part of a schedule and have it laid out. You also want to look at HST implications. Maybe you purchased this property with the intention to live in it, and when you buy a property through a developer with the intention to live in it, HST is included in the price. However, if you decide to rent it out, if you're an investor, then you'll have to pay HST on closing, and you can get a rebate from the CRA, but you'll have to apply for that as long as you rent out the unit. Now, again, these are the things you have to consider, because the new buyer, in most cases, would have to pay that HST even if they're intending to live in that unit, because from the builder's perspective, they consider that a flip or an assignment. They consider you an investor, and they don't want to have to deal with the HST rebate portion, so they'll just make the new buyer pay HST on closing, and the new buyer can then go and get the rebate. So again, something you want to think about when you're assigning and how that's to be structured, because this is an important part of an assignment agreement. All right, let's talk about market conditions. So, obviously we're at a time where interest rates have been quite high over the last few years. The Bank of Canada has been raising interest rates very quickly. It's made housing extremely unaffordable. And what that's done is also brought a flood of inventory on the assignment and pre-construction market. And that's bringing the assignment prices down and making them harder to sell. Number two, there's also been the high pricing factor over the last few years. People who purchased what I would consider the peak, which was 2021 and 2022, of the pre-construction market, where a lot of the newer condos that we're selling anywhere from 30 to, I've seen as high as 40% more than the resale inventory, apples to apples, because builders were also projecting future appreciation in their pricing. So in a nutshell, if you bought something, let's just say 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, and you bought it at a premium and you're trying to sell it now, how does it compare to the resale prices, right? Why would somebody want to buy an assignment from you if they can buy something on the resale side for 30 to 40% cheaper? So again, you have to see how much did you pay for it? What was your price? And market conditions will dictate whether or not your property is assignable. If you bought it too expensive and you are looking to make a profit, you may want to reconsider if you want to assign or close on it. You also cannot list on the MLS, which I've already covered. They're not allowed to be listed on the MLS. They must be sold privately. So you want to make sure you really leverage all the resources you have to get your assignment listing the maximum exposure possible and get as many eyes in front of your listing as possible. When to sell? Timing is important. Now, typically for condos, the building must be at least 90% sold in order for the builder to allow you to assign. Now, builders will typically allow you to assign 6 months prior to occupancy, which allows you time to market and sell. This is important because timing is important, right? Most buyers will not be too excited to buy an assignment from you if they can't even see the building. But if the building is already up and it's just a couple months away from occupancy and you can actually enter the building, you can see the lobby, maybe you can see the finishes and see the overall, makeup of the building, gets buyers more excited to actually want to go and buy a unit as opposed to just buying off of a floor plan, which you probably did at the time that you purchased it, but you likely also got some good incentives. But for the new buyer, the time for them to buy an assignment is when they can actually see the building and possibly even see the unit, but in most cases they cannot. Lastly, marketing the listing. That's very important. I already touched on this briefly, but you want to find the best channels to market the property, everything from Facebook groups to assignment networks to private Facebook and WhatsApp groups to databases like ours where we have thousands of people that are actively looking to buy deals. Right, this is a very important slide because this talks about valuing. All right, now this is a very important slide because this talks about valuing your pre-construction property. Now, first of all, you want to look at the market data and determine the resale values of similar properties. So let's just say you've got a property downtown at King and Spadina, for example. You have to see how much are similar properties like yours selling for, and you want to price your property in line with those market comparables. Now, one of the great resources that we have, that we're fortunate to have as non-realtors, is House Sigma. It's a fantastic app where you can actually go and look at sold data. If you haven't used House Sigma, I highly encourage you to use it. Great tool. I love buyers and sellers who are educated, who can see what properties are listed for and selling for. But my general rule of thumb, if you take a look at this pyramid graph on the right side here, this is typically how you want to be able to come to the conclusion of how to price your property. So let's just say you went on House Sigma or another source and you found out that resale comparable properties to yours are selling for $500,000. Let's just use a very simple number. Now, in order for you to establish what to list it at, assuming that your condo is worth $500,000 based on market value, there's a few ways you can actually price your property. If you price your property 15% above market value, you'll typically capture 10% of buyers. If you price your property 10% above market value, you'll capture 30% of buyers. Now, if you price your property 10% under market value, then you'll capture 75% of buyers. And if you price your property 15% below market value, you tend to capture 90% of buyers. So as you can see on this graph, you'll have more buyers purchase properties at market value rather than above market value. And the lower you go below market value, the more attention you're able to bring to the listing, the more eyes you're able to bring to the listing. The whole idea, especially in markets like this, is to be able to drive as much traffic to your listing as possible, as many eyeballs to your listing as possible, so you can get it maximum exposure, especially when you're competing with a lot of inventory out there. All right. Let's talk about the assignment process. Now, assignments can be complex, but again, we can try to simplify the process as much as possible. You want to make sure, A, you work with an agent that has experience doing assignments if you choose to do it through an agent. Right now, a good assignment agent knows how to negotiate an offer correctly and understands the process, what obstacles you may run into, any roadblocks, so they can be proactive and take care of those issues beforehand. Now, step number one, very simple. Find a buyer that's willing to buy your assignment through the database or online or any other source that you found a buyer through. Step two is to draft an offer. Draft the offer and negotiate all the terms and conditions that satisfy both parties. In an assignment, just like a regular transaction, it has to be a win-win. You can't expect to get hundreds of thousands of dollars more than your original price if the buyer can actually go and buy something for much cheaper, right? So there has to be a win-win scenario. Number three, lawyer review. Right after you guys come into terms of an agreement, you agree on the price and how the deposits are laid out, how the deposits are paid out, how the profits are paid out. You want to send the agreement to a lawyer for review, and it's important to use a lawyer that understands assignment deals. Okay, a lot of lawyers don't understand how assignments work. So assignments are, again, a little bit more complex than resale transactions, so it's very important to use a lawyer that understands the process and the implications. So lawyer has to review it from both sides, the buyer side and the seller side, and those conditions have to be waived prior to it going to the next step, which is the builder consent. So assignments need to go through the builder for final consent and approval. There is no assignment until the builder gives their final approval and consent, regardless of the agreement that you've reached with the buyer and the lawyers. The builder has to consent to the assignment. That's clearly stated in every single agreement of purchase and sale. So very important part here. Just a couple of examples of an offer being drafted. Now, this is just a few pages. They're a lot longer than this, but I just wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what assignment agreement of purchase and sale looks like. The most of the chunk of an assignment agreement is really spent on this right here, which is the Schedule A. There's usually like 6 or 7 pages of these, indicating exactly how the deal is negotiated, including, builder approval clauses, lawyers clauses, financing clauses. You'll have your deposit schedule, payment clauses, who's paying HSD, who's paying occupancy fees, who's paying the remaining deposits to the developer. All those things are very clearly laid out in the schedules. And then you have what's called the Schedule B, which has the breakdown of the assignment price, the asking price, the sold price, the deposit breakdown, all of that stuff. So this is, again, very important. And this is one of the things that really separates the assignment agreement from a regular resale agreement. Okay, next up, right after you come to terms with the agreement, first of all, there's an initial deposit with the offer, which is very similar to resale. Let's just say you guys sign the agreement of purchase and sale. There's a typically 5% deposit that's paid out within 24 hours of offer acceptance, because there needs to be some sort of consideration in Canada when you go into an agreement for a purchase of a property. You need to put something down. So typically that's 5% of the purchase price. Now, the remaining balance of deposits is paid as per agreed upon terms in the agreement of purchase and sale. So let's just say you've paid $50,000 of deposits to the builder. The new buyer then comes in and, you guys come to an agreement of price, and the deposits that the new buyer pays out is clearly outlined in the agreement of purchase and sale. So let's just say they've agreed to give you, $25,000 with the offer. Then the agreement will lay out how the remaining $25,000 is paid out. Is it paid out in increments? Is it paid out in one shot? Is it paid out on closing? Or is it paid out immediately? So those terms are all laid out in the agreement. Now, funds, of course, are always transferred from the lawyer's offices. Nothing's ever done, directly. You're not paying, the buyer's not going to pay you, directly. There's no check written to you or e-transfers. This is all done through the lawyer's offices, through the trust accounts, and the lawyers disperse those funds out accordingly as per the agreement. Now, the new purchaser may have to pay the remaining deposits to the builder upon consent of assignment agreement. So let's just say you've purchased a property from the developer years ago and you've so far paid out 15% to the developer, and there's a 5% deposit that's still pending that's supposed to be, say, paid on occupancy. Now that 5%, if the builder, when the builder consents to the assignment agreement, the builder will expect that 5% to be paid immediately because they want to clear the books and make sure there are no more pending deposits left, even if it hasn't gone to occupancy yet in most cases. And the new purchaser will likely have to pay this. Typically, that's how we negotiate the deals for our seller clients. Just a quick reminder, again, at any time you want to book a call, just scan that QR code down here to sit down with me. If you want to, go ahead and talk about whether or not assignment is right for you and want to dig deeper into the process, you can go ahead and scan that code, and it'll take you to my calendar page where you can book a date and time to speak with me or someone from my team. Okay, let's talk about how to market your assignment if you decide to sell on your own. So oftentimes I have clients that they want to say, you know what, I want to try selling this on my own. I go, no problem. You can certainly do that. First step, of course, is finding a buyer. It's crucial. Without a buyer, you have no sale. So how do you actually find a buyer and market your assignment? So the easiest way to do that is to use Facebook groups. Facebook groups are absolutely crucial, especially if you're looking to sell on your own. And I'll show you exactly how you can do that. Now, the best way to find assignment groups is to go on Facebook and simply go on the groups and type assignments, and you'll get a ton of different assignment groups that pop up. You've got assignment sale here with 3,500 members. You've got assignment sale pre-construction with 49,000. This one's got 20,000, 4,900, 2,500. There's assignment groups with over 100,000 members. You can easily go there and just post your assignment listing. This is a typical template that I use. Because I ask clients, even if I list their properties, I also encourage them to go and post it on Facebook on their own, because the more exposure we get, the better. And I myself also go on these assignment groups on top of leveraging my own database, because again, my goal is to always get as much exposure to a listing as possible. So, this is an example of a, assignment listing that I posted. That's something I was selling in Muskoka. So, very easy to do this. I can actually give you guys a template here. Super easy template. All you want to do is, put an image here of your property. Maybe you get a rendering from the builder's website, or if you have any renderings of your own, maybe you have, your floor plan. You can put those images there. And all you want to do is very simple. You want to put the name of the development, the name of the project, the location, suite type, suite number, if you know it, the size of the unit or house, the exposure, the direction it's facing, whether or not it includes parking and locker, the possession date, or at least the tentative possession date. And then down here, you want to put the assignment price, which is, how much you're actually listing it at. You want to put the price per square foot down there. Then you want to put down here the original price. Most people always want to know what you paid originally, and that you want to make that very transparent from the get-go, because they're going to find out eventually. So you might as well just lay it out. Buyer sum of payments, you want to talk about the profit, if you're generating any, down here, which is obviously the assignment price minus the original price. Deposit return to assigner, you want to put that here. How much deposit is going to be returned to you? Let's just say you put down $100,000 in deposit so far. That's what you're being expected to pay back. Any deposits due on occupancy, and then the total payment to the assignor down here. So if you guys want a copy of this, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to send this over to you guys. Or if you guys book a call, I'll make sure I send one over to you guys to your email as well. Okay, let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid. One of the most common mistakes that I see a lot of people make is overpricing their property. Now, sellers often look for a high asking price, thinking that the market will always match their expectations, and this is where the earlier slide about valuing your pre-construction property, super important. If you're a market seller, if you're in the market to actually sell, then you want to make sure that you're valued at the market price. So buyers are savvy nowadays, right? They'll compare the assignment price with the availability of other resale properties and builder's inventory, and they'll be able to see right through it. So you want to make sure you're not overpriced, because overpricing can lead to the property sitting on the market for too long. Next one, you've got assignment clause misrepresentation, which is, not thoroughly understanding the assignment clauses, the implications that are in the agreement, which may lead to violations or misunderstandings. Developers often will impose restrictions, like, if you find a realtor who's willing to put it on the MLS even though it's not allowed to, well, you now risk losing the entire assignment or the agreement fully. So again, you don't want to put yourself in that position. Failure to obtain developer approval. This is important because if you don't, there's no assignment regardless of any kind of contract or agreement that you've made with the buyer. So very important to get that consent from the developer. Failure to market effectively. I think this one's pretty much a no-brainer. Many sellers underestimate the importance of proper marketing. Simply putting it on Facebook is not enough. You have to find more avenues to be able to get more exposure, because the more people that your property is exposed to, the higher likelihood of a chance of you actually getting a buyer. Not leveraging real estate networks, right? If you're trying to sell this on your own and you're solely relying on Facebook groups, then you could potentially find a buyer. But if you're not using real estate networks, other real estate agents, then you may be falling short of marketing your property effectively. So again, the goal is to always market the property as much as possible. Selling too early or too late. If you're selling it too early, then you may miss an opportunity to perhaps get more money because buyers are not able to view the building. Or if you're too late, you might even miss the boat and miss the timing. So you want to make sure you time your assignment properly. Not paying attention to market conditions. If you're not familiar with what the market's doing and the valuing your property, then you may be missing out big time. Failing to account for all costs. Now this also includes assignment fees, if there's an assignment fee associated with it, if there's any other HSD implications. Not understanding those can really lead to you not accounting for any costs that are related to selling this thing, including if you're hiring an agent and you have commissions to account for, and failing to account for that can also lead to you not knowing how much you're actually going to put in your pocket. So make sure you have those conversations with an agent prior to actually selling. Assuming every interested buyer is qualified. This is a big mistake I see a lot of sellers make. Not every buyer is going to be a qualified buyer, so you want to make sure you do proper vetting, make sure they're pre-approved, the reasons they're actually looking to buy, why they're looking to buy an assignment. On our team, we actually go through that vetting process to make sure that you're actually getting a qualified buyer, not somebody that's just going to waste your time, but also tie up the deal, and make you lose out on a different opportunity from another buyer. And not planning for contingencies, right? So not planning for the worst case scenario, which is if you're not able to sell this, then you better be in a position to close on this thing, and not doing your due diligence and having all your ducks in a row can lead to you, possibly losing out on your unit or house altogether. Let's look at a quick case study. This is a case study at 188 Fairview Mall Drive. This is a client that purchased a 1+ den, 2 baths for $520,000. and needed to sell because he had 2 other properties closing that year. So, we got the exposure of this property through our network and database to 2,100 assignment buyers, including 600 agents in our network. We ended up selling this for $605,000. The original deposits we negotiated to be paid up front, and profits we negotiated to be paid on final closing, which, basically ended up getting our sellers about $85,000 in profit. So just a quick recap, right? You want to make sure you're aware of market conditions and timing. Those are very, very important. You want to make sure you get maximum exposure to your listing to find the right buyer. You want to price your assignment listing properly and based on market data and not your own expectations. You want to understand your legal and financial obligations when deciding to sell on assignment. You want to have that emergency plan in the event your listing does not sell. And you want to work with the right team to maximize exposure and leverage the network as much as possible. So I hope you found this video valuable and helpful. in regards to your goals and what you're trying to do with your pre-construction property. If you feel that you need assistance, my team and I are always here to help. You can simply scan this QR code. It'll take you to my calendar page where you can book a date and time that works for you. Happy to sit down with you one-on-one, no obligation, to give you some guidance and to see whether or not we're the right team to help you. So encourage you to go ahead and do that. Thanks for watching.